Welcome to the Just Ask podcast, exploring the secrets to a healthier, happier, and more connected marriage. I'm Becky Bridgham.
And I'm Jim Bridgham.
And we're your hosts on this journey.
Whether you're navigating the joys and challenges of married life, raising a family, or striving for better health and fitness, you've come to the right place. We're here to provide you with the guidance, insights, and tips you need to create a thriving partnership.
But what makes our podcast unique? Well, we're not just here to share our own experiences, we're here to answer your burning questions. Each week, we'll dive into the topics that matter most to you.
So remember, Just Ask isn't just a name, it's also an invitation. We want to hear from you. If you've got a question about relationships, family dynamics, or how to stay fit together as a couple, don't hesitate to reach out. Drop us a line through the website or social media, and we might even feature your question in an upcoming episode.
And to make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe. We'll be coming to you every week, and trust us, you won't want to miss a single episode.
So we'll dive in. Grab your favorite beverage, cozy up, and let's look into the wonderful world of marriage, family, and fitness, and we'll do it together. You've got questions, we've got answers. This is Just Ask, the podcast for couples seeking happiness, health, and harmony. Let's go. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's Just Ask podcast. I'm Jim.
And Becky.
And today we're going to talk about time management. Now, time management isn't exactly a sexy topic. I'm sure you're like, oh gosh, rolling your eyes, but it's important. As parents, as a couple, whether you're both employed, one's home, you have kids or not, or dogs or animals, there's a lot of things coming at you in life. And frankly, it just gets busier every single day. So having an effective time management plan helps you to get more out of your day, more time for connection when you have time for connection with people. And frankly, you feel more accomplished. We want to reduce anxiety, which a lot of people feel because they're stretched because of their time. And time is very finite. So with that in mind, we're going to hit a few areas that can help you to organize time. And again, time is your most important asset. I've said that in earlier podcasts, but money can always be, you can get more money, you can get more stuff, you can get a host of other things, but you can't get more time. So we want to learn how to deal with this most valuable commodity that you have.
Awesome. So the first thing we're going to talk about is prioritizing our tasks. So Jim mentioned that sometimes we feel completely overwhelmed with just the sheer amount of things we have to do. I mean, just to survive individually, you have a lot to do, right? You have to brush teeth, you have to take a shower, you have to eat food. Then you throw some kids in the mix. Then you throw in a job, some pets, activities, commitments. There's a lot of tasks, which I know Jim has talked about in the past, is that fatigue that can come upon your brain with all of these things. So one of the things that we can do to reduce that is to prioritize, right? There's some things that are super important that, we got to get done right away. And there's other things that they're just like these open tabs that are not that important. So one of the things that you can do is identifying, okay, what are the major things that we have to get done? Jim and I shared, we just moved this year and we've had a lot of things out of the normal that were tasks, unpacking boxes, hanging up pictures. Some of these things are not necessarily important, but they were important because we're creatures of routine. We like neat and tidy spaces. And so we feel like we couldn't get into our main routine until we had the house pretty much set up. So for us, that was very important. But what's important to you might not necessarily be important to your spouse. And so as a couple, you also want to be talking about what's important. What do we need to get done this week? What can we maybe push off for next week? And really have a conversation about that. So individually, but then as a couple and as a family. And one of the things that you can do with that is to create a task list in the sense of putting all your tasks that you have, prioritizing what are the must-dos, what are the would like to do, what are the, hey, these can wait, but putting them on your calendar. I always say a list is not a plan. So a lot of people will, get to their desk on Monday, they'll make this huge list of things they want to do, but there's no plan. It's just a list. One of the best things you can do is map out which day I'm going to try to attempt to get these things done, because you can't get them all done on Monday. It's just not possible. So when you try, then you feel like you're failing by Wednesday, and by Friday, you're completely exhausting. So being realistic about these tasks and how you can fit them into your week. And then also the third point, that is delegating. Some of these tasks might not be things that you necessarily have to do. Maybe you can have a child do it, or a neighbor, or ask a friend, or again, ask your spouse to help with certain things. So one of the things with managing our time is prioritizing our tasks, identifying what's urgent, what's not urgent, making that list into an actual plan, and then asking and delegating for help.
Yep. And another thing beyond tasks. So like you have your task list. Like Becky said, we need to put it on your plan, on your calendar with a purpose. But I want to give kind of just a point to give you an idea how much time you actually have. Realistically, let's say dedicate 8 hours, 7 to 9 hours for bedtime that you are not being functional. One, during that time, you should not be on electronics, but let's just put that aside. Let's say 8 hours. Let's say you're working a full-time job. That's 8 hours as well. That doesn't count your commute time. That's 16 hours. When we look at how much time you have that you can actually dedicate to something after you look at meals, shower, commute time, etc., you're looking at roughly around 6 hours at the most, more like 5 in most cases. So just to think of 5 as a realistic number, because you have to think meals, commute time, all that is subtracted in that 3. So we've got 5 usable hours or 300 minutes. So every 30 minutes you spend on something that's personal outside of that work time or bedtime, that's 10% of your usable time. So that's crazy. And most of us are like, no, 24 hours a day. Yeah, what are you using your time on? The other thing is people will tell me, oh man, I totally multitask all the time. And I need to tell you something. It doesn't exist. You think you're multitasking, but your brain is doing something called rapid switching. It's moving from topic A to topic B very quickly and then back to A. So you think you're texting and cooking and that you're being super efficient. But what you're actually doing is you're using probably 4 to 5 times the energy that you would use if you just did one of those things at a time. Now, sometimes it's difficult. It's really hard to just do one thing at a time in our world. But the reality is social media and texting and email is just killing our brains. And frankly, if you're doing this all the time, you may be more likely to be overweight, to have sleep difficulty or sleep problems, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. So what's the point of this diatribe? How do we fix it? Well, it's by time blocking. So I'm going to explain what time blocking is. I'm using it. I'm using it way more militantly now. But what it is you set your time of the day that you're going to do a project. Maybe it's a side hustle, maybe it's cooking, maybe it's shopping, and you actually block the time. So like Becky said, you take the task, you put it on there, and that's what you do in that block of time. You don't do anything else in that block of time. That's what you do. But wait, Jim, I need to do texting, email, got to update the gram with a picture. Put that on your calendar on purpose. Put a 15-minute block of time on it. I've actually gone as far with mine. I've color-coded mine. I'm using Google, and I'll tell you the app I'm using in a second for it. But I had to remove mail from my phone. So email, I don't have on my phone at all. I had to delete it. I have to just use it on my iPad because I was checking it so often. I shut off all notifications on my phone, all of them, except for the ringing. So if you call me, I will answer. If not, I will check it in 2 15-minute blocks in a day. That's what I got. Now you might say, oh my gosh, that's kind of ridiculous. But right now, I want to be efficient with my time. I'm using it as an example, but I have a thesis that I'm working on. We're starting a church. We have a number of other commitments. So the block of time is necessary for me. For you, I'd argue it's just as efficient because many people I know who are trying to start a business to lose weight, to get fitness in, they say, I don't have time for this or that or that. When I actually have you look at your time and do a time audit, you do have the time. What's a time audit, Jim? And then we'll come back to the app on how to do this. Take a notebook and diligently record everything you do in a day. I'm talking the whole day. Put it in your pocket from day one. What time do you get up? Like 6:01 or whatever. Got it. Check. Woke up. Brushed teeth. Showered. Put down every single thing you do in a day. If you do that for a week, you probably will be like, I know, like discouraged or maybe disgusted with yourself. I did this for a week before I started going into like more militant blocking versus kind of like, oh, I block my time, but like being militant with my time. And what I found was, I was like, oh my gosh, I waste so much time on social media. It's incredible. And I didn't think I did. I thought I was pretty good about not. So just like you, and Becky and I've talked, it's like when you start tracking your food, your calories, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in rough shape. Tracking your time can give you the time to achieve your dream, to spend time with your spouse, with your kids, to work out. I swear this works. And people get it. They understand. They don't need a response right away. If it's an emergency, they can call 911 or they can call you. Find a way to put this in. So how do I do it? I use just Google, my Google Calendar. I go in. If you log in online via the web versus using a phone or like an iOS device, you can actually edit the colors and color code your Google Calendar. So whatever's important to you, put it down, look at it. And when you do it the first time, this isn't going to work. It's going to fail miserably. But what you'll find is like, oh, well, I didn't get this done. Adjust the colors, adjust the time, put what's important to you on there so you can honestly look at it and say, do you have time for this? What do you have time for? Most people have more time than they think. However, there are some things that you might have to say no to. You might say like, yeah, I can't do the book club if I'm going to start a business. I can't hang out with my friends every single Tuesday if I'm going to get a good workout in. There are certain trade-offs that are going to happen when you look at it, and it's a forcing function. It allows you to balance everything like parenting and your personal time. All that is all in there and on purpose. The other thing that's on there is relaxation time. I implemented this year. This is new, so I've only done this for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I shut my phone off on Saturdays. I do not turn it on all day. Does it drive me crazy? Absolutely. I love Audible. I love podcasts. I use my phone all the time for different things. It does not turn on at all. It's completely off. And you know what? No one's died. No one's died. And so for me, what do I use that time for? Connecting with my kids, my family. It makes a humongous difference. And it's going back to like those 80s and 90s when we used to actually just hang around with people and not be staring at our phones. So I can't emphasize this time blocking enough and how it builds on what Becky said with that prioritizing your tasks. But she's going to bring this even further into your life now.
So another thing that we can do to kind of manage our time better and to get more efficient, these are not punishments. Sometimes you might think like, oh my gosh, to map out my whole day it sounds like a lot of work, quote unquote work. But what you actually will find is taking the time to do this gives you so much more freedom. I will attest that Saturday mornings, Jim lets me sleep in. He gets up with a baby monitor and he goes and he plays video games. Well, that is undistracted time, uninterrupted by phone and text and all these things. And you're giving yourself more freedom. So one of the ways you can do that is by streamlining your daily routines. We are all creatures of routine. You can say you're not, but you absolutely are. We all will typically put our shoes on in the same order, brush our teeth in the same direction, brush our hair, eat the same foods, drive the same route to work. We are creatures of routine. So how can you maximize those routines with your time management? Sometimes it's just getting deliberate with them or implementing certain things that are going to make your day easier. So let me give you a couple examples. Evening routines and morning routines. One of the things that we have done this for so long, I don't even really notice it until to be honest, our kids will hang out at our house, they live here. They'll go to another friend's house. And then when they come home, they're like, oh, wow, like it makes them appreciate how efficient and tidy and neat. Not that other people's houses are messy or dirty and they're not judging, but they're like, wow, people's houses are way different than ours. And this by no means is that ours is perfect, but there's certain things that we have been done for so long that create a healthy, happy, and really a clean home. I grew up in a home, both my parents worked a ton. My brother worked, what do they call latchkey kids, where we'd come home, we'd make our own dinners, a lot of the time. And our house was clean, but it wasn't always tidy. So this is something that bothered me as a kid. So now as an adult, I like my house clean, not to the point of obsession, but every night before bed, we make sure that the dishwasher's on, the countertops are wiped off. Everything is tidied up because when you wake up in the morning, you're starting with a fresh, clean slate. Same thing before I'll leave the house to go to, say, grocery shopping or whatnot, I make sure everything's picked up because I don't want to come home to a mess. So sometimes we will underestimate the amount of time that's going to take. So for example, or we'll overestimate like, oh gosh, I can't do the dishes now because it's going to take me, 20 minutes. If you set a timer and see how long it takes you to empty the dishwasher, to refill it, take out your trash, it's probably less than 8 minutes. Like it's so quick when you really look at it. So creating these evening routines that are going to set you up for success. One thing is making school lunches. So, our kids have always really taken their own lunches. They don't really buy lunch just for multiple reasons, but it was just easier, honestly. and better on the budget to make their lunches. But sometimes making those lunches in the morning can get stressful when you're already, if you have little kids, you have to do their hair, they make sure the backpack's are ready. You're still getting yourself ready for work. So doing those lunches the night before could be a simple evening routine that sets you up for success. So again, these are not always going to translate from our home to your home, but thinking about what can I do the night before in my evening routine that's going to set me up for success the next morning. Likewise, on the weekend, if it's meal planning, grocery shopping, you don't want to go grocery shopping, Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. on your way home from work. If you can get it done on the weekend, cleaning your house on the weekend, mapping out your week, looking with your partner at what is to come, balancing kids' schedules. We used to have a Sunday meeting where we would sit down. We'd not just talk about schedules. We'd talk about anything, that's pressing or any kind of conflicts or any kind of discussions we need to have on that Sunday would set us up for a successful week ahead. So creating evening routines set you up for success for the morning. Also creating morning routines that are going to set you up for success for the day. So those are more personal routines. Maybe it's 15 minutes of meditation. Maybe you get your workout in before you go to work. Maybe it's, packing your lunch with healthy snacks so you're not going through a drive-through on the way to work. Getting efficient with your routines. At first, sometimes it takes a little extra effort because it's not habit, but once it becomes habit, it just makes your life so much easier, so much more efficient, and really healthier and happier. Part of that, again, is the routines, it's the planning, it's a preparation, and decluttering. One of the things that sometimes overwhelms us with our time and our home is how much time we spend on the stuff, right? We're buying stuff, we're organizing stuff, we're putting stuff away, we're donating stuff, we're cleaning stuff. We live in a very stuff-filled world. So one of the things that you can do is if you can eliminate extra stuff, extra clutter, make your home as tidy as possible. Again, it doesn't have to look like Pinterest. There are very happy homes that are, have lots of stuff, but it's purposeful stuff and stuff that is well managed. So just want to encourage you, if you are feeling overwhelmed, look at your routines, look at your spaces, look at how you're planning and see if that can help manage your life and your time.
And something that can help you with that is technology. Now you might say, well, Jim, you're like really limiting your technology. You're like, I love technology. It's great. And it can help you within proper boundaries. Now, why? Well, you have to realize that working with blue light based electronics, like our shiny phones and computers, iPads, and all the things, right? It's no different than like taking cocaine as far as your brain's concerned. Like it's literally creating the same effect as doing cocaine. So you could be like, oh my gosh, how could someone do cocaine? You're like, well, I can jump on my iPhone all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just as addictive. So what we want to do is have that recognition and approach it with that knowledge, because we also need to use it day to day. I don't think any of us are going to get rid of our phones. I don't think they will ever be gone at this point. So the first thing we can use within technology is a family calendar. So you can create another Google account or whatever account you want and create a family calendar that's shareable by everyone. What we do at our house is when we have an appointment, I invite Becky to the appointment, and that way it shows up on both of our calendars. And we do a sync from time to time on important things. We don't do it every week anymore, but we do send those notes, and that helps us to know what's going on between work or travel or all those things. We're all on the same page. The second thing is making sure we set digital boundaries for screen time. Why is a boundary important? Well, I just mentioned that this has an addictive property to it. You can do things with your phone, like mine is black and white, has no color on my iPhone 13 Pro Max. I know, has all gray, and then there's no blue light. So when you look at it, it looks really bland and it isn't attractive. And I did that by intention because I know that I don't want to incentivize my brain to stare at this phone for 1 second more than I have to help me achieve my mission. I want it to be my aid and a tool, like a hammer with a nail. I don't want it to direct my life like cocaine. Mm-hmm. So that's the two approaches to it. You can also set boundaries through a number of apps. You can put it in the phone as well to put time where you can shut the phone off. The thing I'll say, one thing before I move to the next point here is, if nothing else, shut your phone off at least an hour before you plan to go into bed. I know that's so hard. So many people, and I did this for years, scroll social till they go to sleep. the impact to your sleep is incredibly bad. It's incredible. There is no benefit. There's nothing good that's going to come of it. Even if you think it doesn't affect you, I'm sorry, you're human. It's gonna. And so if you can just shut it off just an hour, ideally even longer than that before bed, you are in such a better place. Put it out of your room. And when I say that too, if you can store it out of your bedroom, that's fine. Most of us still need an alarm on our phone to wake up or whatever, but wherever you can put it, that's helpful. Okay, next point, we want to leverage the technology to make sure we're efficient with our communications. Some examples: if you are using text and you have family who are a little bit older or a spouse, create a thing like the list. Becky created this list on our iPhones, which is the things we need to buy at the store. How many of us have been walking around and said, oh my gosh, we need more toilet paper or Windex or whatever? Text the list, everyone gets it, and everyone kind of is on the same page to know what to get. This might sound ridiculous, but it's nice because if a person's coming home and you see, oh, someone needs an NyQuil, oh, I'm right next to Walmart, I'll pick it up. So that's a way to keep efficiently connected with everybody involved in your family, creating different lists or groups. Like group texting generally is never really a fun experience, but with your family, keeping it to like the communication pieces or things like the list can go a very long way.
Awesome. And so one of the things that Jim mentioned with time management is making sure that you're setting time aside for your personal relaxation. Sometimes it seems silly, like, oh, I have to schedule relaxation. Yes, you do. Because sometimes, especially if you're a high achiever or you're a go-getter or you have a bunch of kids or a bunch of projects, you can never stop. I mean, literally, you could get up in the morning and work all the way till bedtime. And guess what? You'd still have more things to do. And I used to tell young moms this when I was in moms groups, is no one is going to give you a trophy at the end of the day for completely exhausting yourself. It's just, no one's going to give you a reward. Oh, you're the best mom ever because you're so tired at the end of the day. No. You're probably going to be a better mom, a better husband, a better partner, a better employee by carving out time for yourself, not in a selfish way, not like, okay, I'm going to take 8 hours and I'm going to ignore my kids and not feed them because I'm going to watch, Real Housewives of wherever. I don't even know where they are at this point. But setting aside a time to recharge, refill and rest is super important. So we want to encourage you. Yes, we're talking about getting more efficient, getting more done, managing our time, managing our tasks, but make sure we're prioritizing that self-care in the midst of all that and make that time sacred. I think that's something that you and your partner can also discuss. Like, hey, I know, like, for example, I know on Saturday morning, Jim plays video games. If I'm awake and I'm like, I don't come down because I don't want to bother him. I'll like read a book upstairs because I want him to have that time to just be unbothered. So it's likewise, he would occasionally schedule me a massage out of the blue. He's like, hey, I booked you a massage. I'm like, yeah, right on. Like, who doesn't want a massage? But he also knows that's important to me. And so having that communication and making sure that you're balancing it with your partner, that it's not, say, lopsided, that you're both getting time to recharge and refill. It's going to make your home happier. It's going to make you both feel better. And it's going to make you better at managing your time in general as well.
That's great. So I'm going to recap kind of what we went over today. And obviously we're both passionate about this because we want you to live the best life you can. This is probably next week we're talking about budgeting, but this is so much more important than that because you don't want to leave life on the table and say, oh man, I could have done that, but I had to death scroll through Instagram, right? Like there's a point where, you know what I mean? Okay. So what did we go over? One, prioritize your tasks. Like what's important to you. Put them on the schedule on purpose with time blocking. Tasks to schedule. Streamline those daily routines. Make sure things make sense. Don't leave time on the table. Again, don't leave life on the table at the end of life. Embrace technology, but recognize its limitations and its effects. The final thing is that self-care. Oh my gosh, we need to make sure self-care is on the schedule or else it will never happen. If you think, like Becky said, someone's going to drop out of the sky and be like, take care of yourself. No one is going to say that. No one ever will say that. So that's pretty much what we went over. We want to let you know you can do this and that these changes won't be overnight. You're not going to do this in a day. And by the way, the first week you do any of this, it's going to fail miserably. Second week, it will fail completely. Third week, it'll work, but just a little bit. And so what you'll find is if you can stay committed to this over time, you'll see such an impact in a year that you will never go back ever. I promise. So just give it a go, give it a try, live your life to its fullest. And thank you so much for listening today.
Awesome. We're so glad that you are here. If you ever have any topics that you'd like us to discuss, any questions, or you need specific help in any of these areas, please reach out to us at the Just Ask Podcast on Instagram. Talk to you soon.
Bye.